Okay, welcome everybody. So nice to see you. Hi, Gianfranco. Good to see you. I heard you thought you were coming to campus today, and now you're online. We'll have an in-person opportunity for parents coming up next month, actually. So we're excited about that. Okay. So we're just letting the remaining people in. And while we're doing that, if you want to just read over the norms, this session will be given in both English and Spanish, but all of our slides are in both languages. So if you could please mute your microphones, that helps. And we are going to start and end on time. Any questions that you have, we will have question and answer time at the end. So please don't hesitate to ask any question. That's what we're here for. And if something pops up in the middle, just let us know. We will, like I said, be doing this in Spanish and in English, but you can read it in the language of your choice. We will, of course, practice our values of respect and caring. And like I said, the session is being recorded and will be added to my website so that you can watch it at a later time as well if you need to. So we are going to get started today. Today is our first coffee chat of the year. I'm here with Ms. Silvita de Diaz, and we are so excited to talk to you all about standards-based grading and assessment, and basically how to read those report cards that are going to be coming home in just about a week. So I hope that this is a useful session for all of you, so that you know this is a very, very similar session to the one we gave last year. And every year we will give the same coffee chat because we know in ECE we are just starting to learn how the systems work here at Inter. And there's two slightly different systems. There's systems that are for preschool pre-K, and then there's a slightly different report card for kinder and grade 1. So it's important for you to stay up to date on both of those regardless of the grade level you're in this grade. So it's so nice to see so many of you here. We got lots of people joining. All right. So we are going to get started with our objectives of this meeting. First of all, I want you to get to know ECE's system of evaluation and reporting. And also we want to resolve any doubts you may have. Thank you for those of you who turned in the RSVP form. Many of you mentioned some questions that we will be taking note of during this session. Sorry, I'm multitasking with letting you guys in. All right, so as you may know, here at Inter, we use a standards-based reporting and assessment system in both ECE and elementary. Once they get up to middle and high school, they will have more of the traditional grading system that you may be familiar with. But what does this mean? Many of us did not receive grades this way growing up, so we want to make sure that you guys are aware of what this looks like. So basically, I want to use this analogy of taking your car to the mechanic. Anybody that has a car has to take their car to the mechanic, and they have to make sure that they know what's going on with their car. Oh my goodness, so many people popping in. Sorry. I'm going to just pause for a second to make sure everybody pops in. Great to have so many people here. Remember to please put your mic on mute. Thank you. I hear someone. There we go. Perfect. So our traditional grading system would not work for many of the things we need. Imagine taking your car to the mechanic. You've got a little problem. Sorry, I'm hearing someone's mic on mute. There we go. Thank you. Imagine taking your car to the mechanic and the mechanic says, okay, your car's a B+. That doesn't give you any specific information. It doesn't tell you what you need to work on. It doesn't tell you where your car is doing okay. It's a very general, very overarching grade or report that's not actually going to help you at all in knowing how best to support your car and moving forward. So in a standards-based grading system, that's where we break it down into smaller pieces. So wouldn't you rather go to a mechanic that tells you, well, the engine is great, the battery's great, the transmission is great, but those brakes we need to work on, and tires, maybe by the next time you come in, you need to take a look at those as well. That's a much more detailed and more useful system for us to get information about something like our car. And the same goes for our students. When we look at a regular or traditional report card, in the past, maybe you would have seen that in math, they got an A or a 95%. Great, but what does that actually mean? With a standards-based report card and with standards-based grading, we break down what is expected under mathematics, and you will see how your child is doing in each of those specific areas. So this really helps you know exactly what you need to do, exactly where your child is glowing, but also where they need to grow. And it gives us more specific feedback as parents. So the way that this works here at school is that our teachers start off by making sure they have all of their standards identified, and we're going to discuss what those standards are in a few minutes. Once they identify their standards, they will plan activities to build on those skills. Following this, they do observation and assessment throughout the year. They're constantly observing their students. They're constantly taking note of how the kids are doing in every area. They record and reflect on this, and then they'll plan activities based on what they see. If they notice, ooh, my kids are not understanding subtraction, they might take a little more time. Or, oh, our kids already know how to count to 10. Let's move on a little faster. So it's constantly informing their instruction. And when we get to the end of the quarter, that's when we report. So they fill in their report cards at the end of each quarter, and they share that information with you. This year, our quarters look like this. And we have 4 quarters in the school year, which means you will get a report card 4 times in the year. We will talk about parent-teacher conferences at the end of today's presentation, but keep note that these are the time periods that we will be recording and reporting. So something you should know is that in ECE, we actually have 2 separate sets of standards. We have the TS Gold standards that we use for preschool and pre-K, which are more aligned to early childhood. And then in kinder and grade 1, and actually up throughout the school, they will be using Common Core standards. So today's session will discuss both things.
Ahorita vamos a hablar sobre los estándares y la forma de calificar en preschool and pre-kinder. En los 2 niveles es exactamente igual, de la misma forma. Nosotros utilizamos el Creative Curriculum como programa y tenemos la herramienta para poder evaluar a los niños en un programa estandarizado. Entonces, este programa nos va a indicar qué se espera para un niño de 1 año, qué se espera para un niño de 2 años, de 3 y de 4, y en base a eso nosotros hacemos la evaluación. El estándar quiero explicarles que es como una habilidad o un conocimiento más detallado, ¿verdad? Y específico para cada edad, ¿verdad? Entonces, no podemos pedirle, por ejemplo, a un niño de 6 meses que camine. Entonces, nosotros sabemos que a los 6 meses se espera que gatee, de 6 al año. Entonces, eso es porque hay un tiempo específico para cada desarrollo. Entonces, nosotros nos basamos en el desarrollo del niño de acuerdo a su edad y qué es lo que esperamos para esa edad. Bueno, entonces, vamos a evaluar, ¿verdad? ¿Y cómo evaluamos? ¿Cómo evaluamos, verdad? Evaluamos igual, como les digo, en los 2 programas y lo que nos ayuda es llevar un récord del desarrollo del niño y evaluarlo de acuerdo a su nivel. Eso es bien, bien importante. La forma como evaluamos. La forma como evaluamos es, primero, pues es 1 a 1, ¿verdad? Hay momentos donde estamos con el niño, con el maestro, y está preguntándole, por ejemplo, es informal, no es de llevarlos a la mesa, sino están viendo, están jugando, ve, ¿cuántos carritos hay aquí? 3, entonces ya sabe el número 3, ¿verdad? ¿Y de qué colores hay? Y entonces nosotros en el mismo momento podemos observar qué sabe y qué no sabe el niño, ¿verdad? O podemos ver aquí hay 3 rojos y un azul. Bueno, a ver, cuéntenos, ¿dónde hay más, dónde hay menos? Entonces, eso nos permite cuando evaluamos uno a uno. La observación es muy importante. Hay momentos en que nosotros no intervenimos, ¿verdad? No intervenimos, sino solo observamos cómo la interacción entre el niño, los maestros, cómo la interacción entre los niños, qué intereses tienen, ¿verdad? Y ya se toman notas y se ve realmente cómo va el niño en diferentes aspectos, no solo en el aspecto académico, sino en los diferentes tipos de socioemocional, en el tipo físico y en la adquisición también del idioma inglés. Ahora, vamos, bueno, nosotros realmente el propósito de la evaluación primero es saber en qué nivel están los niños y poderlos apoyar. Identificar la necesidad de cada niño. Hacemos una planificación global, pero también vemos qué necesidades tiene cada niño. Y cuando ya se trabaja en grupos pequeños, entonces ahí es donde se trabaja de acuerdo a la necesidad. Y además nos ayuda a evaluar el programa. ¿Qué etapas tenemos? El primer paso es la observación y recolectar datos. Ese es el primer paso que se lleva en este programa. Entonces se escucha al niño, se graba también muchas veces, se guarda un récord de lo que está pasando, ¿verdad? Se toma muchas notas y hay veces se describe. Entonces es como que estamos buscando evidencia, ¿verdad? Entonces, por ejemplo, si un día vemos a un niño que no está jugando con los niños, bueno, es un día. Pero si ya es recurrente, bueno, ¿qué es lo que está pasando? La niños, entonces ya nos comunicamos con los papás porque el comportamiento ha ido cambiando. Entonces, eso es lo que nos ayuda más, lo que es observar y recolectar todas las evidencias que tenemos. Ahora, el paso número 2. Aquí en el paso número 2 es que se analiza y responde a lo analizado. Entonces, ya al tener todos los datos, se analiza, bueno, ok, ¿qué está pasando aquí? Bueno, este niño ya no tomaba bien el lápiz, ahora ya está tomando bien el lápiz. Este niño antes no se involucraba en el centro de arte y ahora ya le está gustando arte. Entonces, es como que se analiza y vamos observando los cambios en el niño. También se ve la frecuencia, ¿verdad? No, este niño solamente quiere jugar con esto, vamos a tratar de que juegue con lo otro. Y se analiza también el crecimiento que ha tenido y se decide qué apoyo darle, ¿verdad? Entonces aquí es donde ustedes ven ya la instrucción diferenciada. Luego hay que conocer el programa, ¿verdad? Como decía Rebeca, este coffee chat ya lo tuvimos anteriormente, pero ustedes lo pueden ver que en lo que ha pasado anteriormente, que fue en octubre de 2021, que es similar, ¿verdad? Pero para que ustedes tengan una idea de esto. Ahora, ¿qué áreas trabajamos? Hay diferentes áreas para observar y trabajar con los niños. La primera área es la social, emocional. Eso es pues la primera y es una de las más importantes. Cómo se ha adaptado el niño, cómo es la relación con sus compañeros, cómo si sigue instrucciones, cómo se integra, sus intereses. Entonces, esta es la primera etapa. Además, por ejemplo, tenemos la etapa física. En la etapa física, pues ustedes ya saben que, digamos, en esta etapa, pues no se espera que ya salten en 2 pies, por ejemplo, y en un pie, ¿verdad? Pero no en pies alternos. Entonces, en lo físico también nosotros vamos viendo cómo va el niño en relación a su desarrollo, qué es lo que se espera para 4 años, o en el caso de preschool, para 3 años. Vemos lo que es el lenguaje, vemos lo que es lo cognitivo, por ejemplo, de literatura, digamos ya el conocimiento de la lectura, si sabe discriminar entre un sonido u otro, se espera para esta edad, o los sonidos onomatopeicos, que son los sonidos del medio, si los puede identificar, eso es lo que se espera para esta edad. Entonces, vemos al niño de acuerdo a la edad, qué es lo que se espera, ¿verdad? En matemáticas igual, pues van a ver en grado preschool, por ejemplo, solo se espera de que sea el más grande, más pequeño, o se puede ver que lo que ya sabe el número 1 y el número 2, pero ya en los otros grados, ya en el grado de prekinder, ya se espera que su nivel sea un poquito más alto. También vemos lo que es de ciencias, el medio ambiente, estudios sociales, arte, y aquí vemos cómo está la enseñanza del inglés como segundo idioma. Si los niños hablan inglés o es su lengua materna es inglés, esto no se evalúa porque ya adquirieron la adquisición del inglés. Entonces se va a enfocar un poquito en lo que está en español. Ahora, aquí es, como le hablamos, ya es la etapa 3 y es cuando ya el niño el maestro identifica a cada niño en la etapa que está. Describe mejor el nivel de habilidad de cada niño. Es la etapa 3. Si pasamos a la etapa 4, aquí ya es como esto es un ejemplo de una etapa 3, ¿verdad? Aquí pueden ver, esto es lo que es ya trazos y escritura. Entonces, ¿qué se espera para un niño chiquito? Pues entonces es que garabatos, ¿verdad? De 1 a 2 años, ustedes pueden ver la primera etapa, es garabatos. Ya la segunda ya están haciendo líneas más definidas, ¿verdad? Entonces, si usted le dice hagan una pelota, solo hacen una línea, pero para ella significa una pelota. Y eso está de acuerdo a su edad. Ya cuando estamos en el grado de preschool y kinder, pues ya los niños ya tienen definido eso, ya hicieron garabatos, entonces ya están poniendo letras, pero al azar. Vieron una A, ponen una A, una J, lo que sea, ¿verdad? Entonces, eso es lo que se espera para ese grado. No estamos esperando nosotros de que escriban, pero eso va de acuerdo al nivel del grupo. Si ustedes pueden ver, digamos en este ejemplo, lo que es la línea verde, eso es lo que se espera en preschool, niños de 3 años, que hagan sus líneas rectas y que empiece a hacer letras, ¿verdad? Y ya para grado pre-kinder, que es 4 años, que es la franja azul, ahí es que ya están haciendo letras y ya algunos niños, ya su nivel ya es un poquito más alto y tal vez va a llegar ya a escribir la letra inicial de unas palabras, ¿verdad? Entonces se le dice pato y tal vez ya puede poner la P, pero la A, T, O no se espera, ¿verdad? Pero eso ya es un nivel un poquito más alto, pero entonces vemos que el rango es largo y que está dentro de lo normal, ¿verdad? Es como unos niños. Caminan al año, pero otros niños caminan al año 2. Eso es normal para el nivel de desarrollo para esa edad. Aquí es igual. Puede ser que unos niños sí escriban unas letras para 4 años y otros niños que estén todavía definiendo líneas, pero eso es normal porque el rango es largo. Luego ya en la etapa 4, que es la final, ¿verdad? Esta etapa ya con todas las observaciones que se han tenido, las evaluaciones y todas las notas que se han tomado en el periodo, entonces ya se evalúa y se conoce mejor al niño. Y entonces ahí en ese momento decimos, bueno, este niño está dentro de lo normal, este llena las expectativas, este niño no llena las expectativas, entonces son áreas que tenemos que trabajar. Y ustedes en la libreta de calificaciones van a ver eso, ¿verdad? Si tienen, por ejemplo, una P que es que está progresando hacia las expectativas, es que todavía no está en el rango, pero está progresando. Entonces, eso nos va a decir en cada habilidad o en cada contenido o estándar, ¿verdad? ¿Dónde está el niño ubicado? Entonces, si ustedes ven que que no cubre las expectativas del nivel, esas son las áreas que debemos de trabajar. Eh, Luego aquí hay una libreta de calificaciones, ¿verdad? de los 4 periodos y las letras que utilizamos es primero la E, que está arriba de las expectaciones. Entonces, si todos los niños esperan que estén azul, pero él ya está haciendo cosas del siguiente nivel, entonces se le pone una E. Pero si, digamos, el niño está de 3 años, ¿verdad? Igual, hace algo que ya está haciendo los niños de 4 años, se le pone una E. Es cuando ya está arriba del nivel del desarrollo esperado. Tenemos la M, que si llenan las expectativas, eso es lo mejor, ¿verdad? Que si está dentro del rango normal, que si está dentro del rango normal para su edad. Entonces ahí, pues, estamos re bien. No importa que tengan la M en el primer cuadro, en el segundo, tercero, cuarto. Lo que estamos viendo es que llene. No queremos que pase a una E, sino para nosotros lo importante es que cubra las etapas del desarrollo de acuerdo a su edad. Y la otra que hablábamos, que es la P, es que es donde hay que trabajar, ¿verdad? Porque todavía no llega a las expectativas de su edad, entonces tenemos que trabajar en esa edad. Gracias.
Puedes mostrar también.
Aquí está la libreta de calificaciones, ustedes pueden ver, ¿verdad? La libreta de un niño de preschool. Hay algunas competencias o habilidades que no se evalúan al principio, pero después sí. Y como pueden ver, ¿verdad? La M es una forma de que ustedes pueden estar tranquilos que eso es una parte del desarrollo que sí se está cumpliendo, ¿verdad? No esperen tener E, porque realmente está bien, ¿verdad? Algunos niños lo superan, pero si está dentro del desarrollo, creo que estamos muy bien.
And all of the report cards have comments on them in all of the grade levels. And so that's another place for you to get information from your child's teacher. So we're going to move on in English now. So open up your English mind to talking about the report cards and the grading systems in kinder and grade 1. As I stated at the beginning, we use the Common Core State Standards to guide our standards starting in kindergarten. And so Common Core State Standards are used to make sure that we are providing the kind of education that all students need, and they're meeting all of their levels and expectations, and it's a great way for us to measure their growth throughout the year. The standards reflect what we expect for the end of the school year, and so that's important to keep in mind. I will be sharing a link to these slides, so there's an article here if you're interested in reading more about the Common Core State Standards. Again, just as a reminder, we go through the same process in preschool pre-K that we do in kinder and grade 1. We identify our standards, we create plans to build on those standards and those skills with our students, we observe and we assess, we record and reflect, and then we go through that whole process again until the end of the quarter when it's time to officially report to you. And so that's what we use here with Common Core State Standards, though. And so here's an example of what that looks like if you actually look at the, if you actually look at the state standards, you're going to see that they're pretty intense. They have some big language. There's so many standards there. So what we have worked very hard on as a school is how to, number one, prioritize our standards and also adjust the language so that it's more friendly for communicating with all of you where your child is and where they need to grow. So if you're interested in learning more about the specific standards, feel free to visit the website. Here is an example of what grade 1 has set as their language arts standards for the year. And what they've done, these are the priority standards and the language that we use on the report cards. What they've done then is they determine which standards will appear on which report cards. Keep in mind that because the standards are created for the end of the school year, this means that there are some items that your teachers will not have had a chance to teach and or assess before a certain quarter. So when you get the report card, you might see this first time only a couple standards under each section. That's because those are the areas that the teachers determined were taught and they were able to assess your students on. For second quarter, you'll see those same standards plus an additional few depending on what they were able to cover in the second quarter and so on. By the fourth quarter report card, you will see grades for every single standard. So teachers get very creative and they find fun activities. This is not just sit down, paper and pencil task to assess where children are. There's lots of ways to see how your students are developing and growing in this area. This is where preschool, pre-K, and kinder and grade 1 have things in common. A lot of times teachers can observe how students are interacting during a math game or how they're reading in a reading group in order to determine where their level is. In addition to this, teachers also use small group assessment frequently. This gives them a chance to work with a small group of students, to listen to their reading, to check on their math skills, to constantly be checking in to see where the students are, how they can grow, and where they're already doing well, so that we can adjust our instruction to meet their individual needs. This is where enrichment comes in as well. There are 2 types of assessment, and I've always liked this example of formative versus summative. Formative assessment is happening throughout the school year. This is sort of when a chef is still making the soup and is tasting it and then deciding, oh, maybe a little more salt or a little more tomatoes. That's happening throughout, and that's when they talk about teachers planning activities, seeing where the kids are, then adjusting and planning their activities. By the end of a quarter, though, so right now, teachers are working on a lot of summative assessments. Let's see what they know right now. And that's more when the guests actually get to taste the soup in this metaphor. So they're doing assessments all the time. They're constantly checking in, which is why report cards are not the only time you're hearing from your child's teacher. If there's a concern or if they feel like there's something that needs to be shared or supported, they'll probably be contacting you before that. When we look at the different rating systems, as you saw with preschool and pre-K, there's 3 letters that are used, P, E, and M. Starting in kinder, we use a system of numbers where we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think this analogy is a nice way to see it because a 1 means your child is emerging in this area. This is an area where they do need to grow. A 1 is an area that you need to say, okay, I see a 1 here. What can I do to support my child in this area? What are you doing to support my child in this area? A 2 means they're developing. That means they can do it, but usually with the help of a teacher. And so this is still an area of progress that we need to work on, but it's not quite a 1 where they can't even do it with help. A 3, similar to the M in the preschool and pre-K report card, is where we want all of our students to be. A 3 means they're right exactly where we expect them to be for their age, for their grade. A 4 means they are exceeding expectations. Although that sounds like it's what we all want, to be honest, there aren't a lot of 4s that are passed out because what we really want is for the children to be on target. If your child is above and beyond in a certain area, you will see a couple of 4s maybe sprinkled on your report card. So here's an example of what our kinder and grade 1 report cards look like. You can see at the top that there's the key for what the numbers mean. And you can see that that key is also at the very bottom of the report card as well. So what you'll notice is that not all standards are reported in the first quarter. So I put an example of a report card from quarter 3 here. So you can see that there's the NA or not applicable. That means that that standard, in this case writing, was not assessed and was not reported on in quarters 1 and quarter 2. But in quarter 3, that's when the teachers felt like they had enough evidence and enough time teaching kids and reporting and checking on how they're doing in order to give a grade for that. So you'll notice that. You'll also notice that sometimes each quarter you're going to see the same number. But what we want to emphasize here is that reflects growth. Why is that? Well, every quarter, we are looking at the expectations for that time in the school year. So for example, if the standard is the child can count from 1 to 100, maybe in first quarter, they only need to count to 10. And if they can do it, they're at a 3. By second quarter, maybe they can count to 30. And if they can do it, they're a 3. By fourth quarter, they need to count to 100. If they can do it, they're a 3. So it shows growth because our expectations grow over time. But our grades reflect on what our expectations are for that point in the school year. So if you see repeated numbers, that's actually great. That means they are growing. Now, a different thing may happen too. It might happen that you see that your child, their numbers shift. For example, in this case, the child got a 3 in first quarter, then a 2 in the second quarter, and then back to a 3 in the third quarter. What this shows is that as first quarter, whatever the expectation was for that standard, they were meeting it. but by second quarter, they were still developing a little bit. Maybe they hadn't quite gotten the new ideas that were involved in that standard. By third quarter, though, they're back to where our expectations are. So those movements also are possible to come up on your report card throughout the year. This gives an example of what that looks like, and we broke down one of the standards that's in first grade. So just to give you a good idea, here in quarter one, we want to see if kids can read words like pinch, steps, thing. If they can do that, then they are able to get a 3 for their quarter one report card. By the time it gets to quarter two, we have higher expectations because we've spent more time teaching them and working with them. So now we want them to be able to read words like tree, bike, spoil. If they can do that, then they're a 3 for quarter two. And you can see how it grows until quarter four when we expect them to be able to read words like stretch, challenge, and place, which have more complicated ideas for reading. So this is how you can see that every quarter our expectations do increase for each of the standards that we have on the report card.
Si hablamos de report card, de libreta de calificaciones, van a recibir la libreta 4 veces al año. Y en algunas ocasiones sí es necesario una reunión con los maestros, con todo el grupo. En el primer quarter es obligatorio para todos los padres tener una conferencia con los maestros y muchas veces les va a platicar Rebeca que muchas veces va a estar la consejera o va a estar alguien del programa de apoyo. En el segundo y el tercero también hay conferencias con papás después de haber enviado las libretas, pero en estos casos las maestras deciden qué niños tener conferencias con los papás, pero si los padres de familia desean tener una entrevista con los maestros, siéntanse en libertad de llamar a la oficina y ahí se les dará una cita con los maestros. Y para cerrar el ciclo, ya a finales de mayo, junio, también tenemos al finalizar el cuarto periodo conferencias con todos los padres para poder cerrar el ciclo y ver qué nos espera para el grado siguiente.
So as Silvita mentioned, there may be other times that you're talking with other people as well, not just with your child's teacher. So we want to make sure that it's clear that the report cards are not the only time you're in contact with your child's teacher. If there was already a concern noticed, even as of right now, you probably have received communication from your child's teacher. Maybe your child was invited to attend enrichment. These are areas that show you that, there's an area that we might need to make sure that they're working a little more on and we're providing more support with that. The video that's here was included in our orientation information. It's on a couple of our grade level websites, but it explains how our support program works. We're not going to watch it right now, but it will be included in the slides that we share. And if you haven't seen it yet, I'd encourage you to watch it because it goes over the fact that when we notice a challenge with a student, we first offer differentiation in the classroom. That is followed by inviting them to enrichment. If those two things are in place and we still see that a child has a need to grow either academically or behaviorally, you might have a contact with the counselors or with the support program in addition to the teachers so that we can work as a team to provide everything your child needs to continue growing, because that's our goal for all of us in the school. Parents, teachers, administration, staff, we all want to support student growth. And so in order to do this, sometimes it means we need to take some extra steps. If that's the case, there's a chance that at your parent-teacher conference, one of these people might be there. We have 2 wonderful counselors. We have 3 wonderful support program teachers, and they might be there to ask for additional support in certain areas or find out more information from you. So don't be surprised if you see them in there. This is not a scary thing. This is a thing to show you that, wow, our team really appreciates all that we all do, parents, students, teachers, our counselors, and we're all there to support the child. So sometimes we need to have a little extra support. So if you see them in the meeting, don't be surprised. They're there to get more information and find out how all of us can work together to better support the child in their growth. And again, I just want to reiterate how important it is that we work as a team. all of us have the same goal. I'm going to say it again because it's so true and so important. All of us want students to grow, not just academically, but in terms of their social, emotional needs, their regulation, their behavior, all of that, we're supporting their growth. And when we work together as a team, we are giving the child the best possible opportunity to grow in an environment where they feel safe and they feel supported by everyone involved. So we appreciate all that you guys do, and we appreciate having that open communication. So when you do have the parent-teacher conference, which are pretty short, they're about 15 minutes, do make sure you come prepared with some specific questions and with an attitude of, how can I help my child in this area? And if you are curious, you can say, what kind of things are you doing in the class to support? Especially if you see those ones and twos. And we will see how we can all work together better to make sure that the child is getting everything that they need. Do you want to add anything to that?
No. Yo creo que el trabajo en equipo es muy importante, ¿verdad? Definitivamente. Cualquier inquietud que tengan, siéntanse libertad de, pues, comunicarse con la maestra, comunicarse con nosotros, con consejeras o con el programa de apoyo, que para nosotros es un gusto poderlos apoyar. Pero sí, trabajar juntos es lo mejor para el beneficio de sus hijos.
So we're about to go into our question and answer phase. Before we start that, though, I'm going to add to the chat 3 important links. Let me see, I think they're all going to be coming up in the chat right now. The first one is an exit slip. It's really important for us to get feedback on how this information was for you, what you took away from this, and also to get ideas for themes you might be interested in for coffee chats in the future. Also, I've given you a link to these slides if you want to look through them on your own. They'll also be on my website. And last but not least, a quick shout out to a fun event that we're going to be starting this year for October 18th. We're going to be having an on-campus event for all ECE parents called the Inter-ECE Parent Fusion Night. And the RSVP form is right there linked in here if you already want to get it. In my newsletter tomorrow, you'll get a little more information, but I wanted to share it now as well. So at this point, let's open it up to any questions that you may have. Stop presenting so that we can support you with that. Does anyone have a question? Maria Jose.
There, sorry. Hello, Miss Rebecca, and hello, Miss Silvita. I have just one question. Last year, Luca was in pre-K, and I think his English level was pretty good. He could understand and answer back, carry a conversation, and everything. When I got the report card, I was worried because he got a 2. So I asked his teacher, and she said that he was doing really well, that he was beyond expectations for that point, but that she had given him a 2 in order to be able to reflect growth during the year. So I was wondering, like, if that is a common practice, and when should we be worried about a 2? Is it commonly done like that? Like, if they're already good at something, but you need to reflect growth during the year, you're gonna give him a 2? Or was that just that particular case for some specific reason? And if we do see a 2, we should do something about it.
Thank you. It seems like, thank you. Great question. It seems like there was a little confusion maybe. And so I'll make sure I check in with all the teachers about that. What we have to make sure, and this is what we want to make sure you're aware of, and our teachers should be aware of as well, is that the grade that we offer is based on where the child is at that point. So it seems to me there was some confusion there, because if he was doing fine, he should have had a 3 in that area or a higher score, because that would reflect where he is at that moment. Growth throughout the year, as I said, is reflected when you see the same grade over and over again, because the expectations change every quarter. So I would say that there's a confusion there. I'm going to check in with my pre-K team to make sure that that's clear with them. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Still having people joining, my goodness. I love having such a big group of people here. Any other questions? Oh, great. Gianfranco.
So hi, I was wondering, we talk about the gold standards, right? But it wasn't clear to me if where I can watch what to expect, right? So as Silvita was saying, my daughter should be drawing something like that. Where can we look at that? So we know when we see the grade, oh, Okay, so she's doing this right now.
Do you want to add to that?
Yeah. You know, in this report card, you are going to see how is your girl in this
Uh-huh.
case. Okay, if you see an PM, no, sorry, if you can see an M, okay, don't worry. She's doing everything according to her level. Okay,
Okay.
so only you need a concern is a P that is progressing toward expectation. That is some like a one content or ability or standard that needs to work.
Okay, so probably when I see a P, I will ask the teacher what should we be doing
P. Yes,
to support her.
yes.
Okay.
And I'm going to also remind you of this slide, which shows that next to the letter, there's going to be a comment that goes into every single report card. So where is she currently, and what does she need to be doing next? And so
Okay.
this is based on the standards that the teachers have been inputting. They are inputting into this system, this TS Gold system that we have throughout the quarter, and then the system will develop where the child is based on all of the evidence that they're putting in there. And so it will tell us where they currently are and what they should be doing next. If you are interested in learning more about the progressions and all of that, which is pretty interesting, we have all that data. So you can reach out to your child's teacher and you can ask her for specific things. So if there's an area that you're concerned about in particular, you can see what's expected of every grade level, because just like we showed you, I don't know which slide it was, where it shows you the range, those color band ranges, that helps us understand what is considered normal here, these ones, for each age level, because the colors at the bottom represent the age levels.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions? Wonderful. Well, it seems like you guys got what you needed to get from this. We're so happy. Thank you in advance for filling out the exit slip, because it gives us a lot of important information about what you learned from this. Again, because we recorded this session, I'll be including the recording on my website. And also you have an access to all the slides to kind of dig in deeper and look at some of those links on there. We hope that this was useful to you. And next Friday, October 6th, we'll be sending report cards home. What's great about that is you'll have a couple days to look at those report cards before your parent-teacher conference, which will start on the 11th. So teachers will be reaching out to you to make appointments. Our parent-teacher conferences are going to continue to be virtual. The reason we're doing this is because we've noticed that this has allowed way more parents to participate in parent-teacher conferences. Considering traffic in this city, it's always hard to get people to the school for a 15-minute meeting. And so having it virtual has been supporting a lot of parents in attending and being able to be present for those. So that's what we're doing. Thank you all so much. And we hope you have a wonderful day. And we hope to see you at the ECE Parent Fusion Night, which will be in just a couple weeks. Have a great afternoon and rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
everything.
you very much.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
day.
you. Bye.
Thanks for everything. Good day.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Bueno, 26 estuvo, ¿no?